So in this video, we're going to take a little break from learning about fundamental coding concepts and techniques in Java. We're going to use what we've learned so far in this section to build a nice, fun, but simple app called Higher or Lower. You may have played this game before, but it's pretty simple. The app generates a random number between 1 and 20, and we have to guess it. So let's see it in action. If I guess 10, for example, the app will tell me that I need to go higher. Okay, so I'll guess 15. Guess again, lower, so it's lower than 15. I'll guess 13. Lower again, I'll guess 12. And I got it right. And then I get the option to try again with a new random number. So pretty simple, but should use everything that we've learned so far this section. And you'll need to Google a couple of things as well. The main one will be how to generate a random number, which we haven't done before. So I think you'll be able to manage that. But as always, if you have any problems or would rather just follow along with me doing it, you can do that as well. Now though, have a go at it yourself. Take your time to pause the video and create your higher or lower app. Go for it. Okay, as always, hope that went well. Let's get cracking. So I'll start with a new project. I'll call it Higher or Lower, and then pick all the usual options and let that set itself up. Okay, as usual, we'll start by designing the look of our app. So I'll get rid of that text view and then add in a new one. Let's just give ourselves a bit more room to work with. And then change the text to I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 20. There we go. And I think we'll center it. We go, add in left, right, and top margins. And then we'll bring in a second text view. Saying, can you guess it? And we'll make it all the same, but a little bit bigger just to bring a bit more attention to it. And then we'll set the same margins for that one too. Okay, then we'll bring in our number text field. Which I'll leave as non-full width this time. I don't think we need a whole full screen width for just a number between 1 and 20. And finally, we'll need a button. Which will contain the word guess. And the on-click method will also be guess. And let's add some constraints to make the button centered as well. Did I add the constraints for the edit text? I did. Excellent. Okay, that looks good. So as usual, I'll just run it in the background while I'm writing my code. Save me time later on. And then all I'm going to do for now is just create our public method, which doesn't return anything, called guess, which is called by a view. Alt-Enter to add the view class. It's been a few videos since you've done this now, so it might be slightly rusty. I'm sure it'll come flooding back to you. Alt-Enter for the log class, and then info and button pressed. Okay, where are we? There we go. Now, can you predict what will happen if I press guess now? We actually have our first app crash. And that's of course because I added the guess method to the guess button before I had written the code. So it tried to run the guess method, but the guess method didn't exist. So let's try it again, now that we've actually written the code for the guess method. Have a little look in the logs. There we go. Button is pressed. All right, so now for the meat of the app. The first thing that we need our app to do is actually find a random number or generate a random number. And that's something we don't know how to do yet. So let's have a look. Oh, there we go. Java generate random number. Notice I didn't put Android in there. There's nothing particularly specific to Android about generating a random number, so I'm just searching for Java. Here we go. So it looks like we need the random class, and then we create a new variable of type random, name rand, which is a new random object of the class random. We'll be looking more about objects and classes in a couple of videos' time, so that should become slightly clearer what this thing is. And then we create an integer, so a whole number, n, which is equal to, now this is slightly odd, we take our random object and then create an int from it. So the next int essentially creates a random number from our random object. And as you can see in the comment down here, so next int 50 here on its own creates a random number between 0 and 49. So if we want a random number between 1 and 50, we need to do next int 50 plus 1. We want a random number between 1 and 20, so what will we need? I'm sure you got that, next int 20 plus 1. So let's copy this code. We don't need to copy the import bit because Android Studio should do that for us. Let's think a little about when we actually want to create the random number. We don't want to do it when they've pressed the guess button, otherwise we'll generate a new random number every time they try and guess, and they could be there for a very long time. So we'll create our random number in the onCreate method. We haven't actually used this yet, but we noticed it back in the first section, and if you remember, this runs code when the app is loaded. So this is a good place to create our random number. So let's paste that in. There we go. So it's offering to add the random class for us. And we want to change the bound as it's known. So the upper bound in this case to 20. And we'll call this random number. All right, so now we've generated our random number, we need to be able to access it in our guess method. Now, you may have noticed if I try and type random number, it doesn't give me the auto predict. Now, we've already talked a little bit about variable scope, and this is a case where it's very important. We've created the variable random number inside the onCreate method. That means it's not available anywhere outside that method. So an easy way around that is to create the variable in the main activity class itself. We don't need to give it a value yet, but then we can use it anywhere in the main activity class. So in the guess method, in the onCreate method, wherever we like. So we don't need to create it again, we can just access it, and now we'll be able to use it inside our guess method as well. Excellent. So let's just quickly change our logging code so that it logs the value of random number, just so that we know that we've got a random number and we're accessing it correctly. So we've got an integer here. To be able to log it, we're going to need to convert it to a string. So let's do a quick search. Java convert int to string. Oh, there we go. I think we can be pretty sure of that. Looks very familiar. So integer to string. And the thing we want to convert to a string is random number. Okay, so now when we press the guess button, we should find in the logs our random number. Let's have a look. There we go. We've got a 5. Fantastic. That looks very promising. So now it's a matter of getting the value that the user has entered and comparing that to the random number to see if it's higher or lower, or if they've got it right. So you should be familiar with this by now. We'll create and edit text. We're going to need to cast it as an edit text because we're going to get it using find view by ID. And the ID is going to be r.id.edit text, which is the default. I didn't change it. And then, again, just to take it really slow, we'll log the entered value, which is going to be edit text dot get text dot to string. And I'll just update that to say random number. Okay, and then once we've just verified that we're getting the entered number and the random number correctly, we'll do our comparisons. Here we go, so I'll enter the number 6. And fantastic, so I've got an entered value of 6, which is right, and a new random number. All looks very promising. So in order to check whether our number is bigger or smaller or equal to the random number, we're going to need to convert it to an integer. You can probably guess how we might do that. But let's just do a quick search. Anyway, okay, there we go. So we've got integer. Instead of parse double as we used before, we're going to use parse int. Okay. So let's create an integer variable. We'll call it guess value. And that's going to be integer.parseInt, and the thing we want to convert is our edit text dot get text dot to string. Okay. Now we'll have the first of our if statements. So if the guess value is greater than the random number, then we want to display a message to the user through a toast, and that message is going to be they need to go lower. Now I could write my toast command right here, but actually I'm going to need that several times. So rather than writing out toast code several times, I'm going to get around that by creating a string called message, and then we'll just update the message depending on the outcome, and then we can have just a single toast command which will save us code, which keeps it easier to read, leaner, and easy to update as well. So if their guess is too high, the message is simply going to be lower. Else, another option is that guess value is less than the random number, in which case they need to go higher. Or the only other option is that they got it right. So we'll say, you got it. And then, regardless of what the outcome is, we want to create a toast. And the text is simply going to be message. All right, let's give it a go. So I'm going to start by guessing 10. I need to go higher. All right, 15, lower, 12, lower. Okay, so it must be 11. Fantastic. That all works perfect. The only thing it doesn't do is allow us to play again once we've got it right. So let's just add in a bit of code to generate a new random number when they get it right, which we can do by just copying that code there. Now, we could leave that as it is, but we've now got the same code twice, which I don't like. So let's get into good habits and create a method for it. So we'll call it generate random number. And we'll create a new random object from which we'll generate a random number equal to the random number variable. Then we can just use generate random number there and also here. So if we decided that we wanted the game to last a bit longer, we could change that to a 50, say, and we wouldn't have to change it twice in our code. So a minor time saving in an app as simple as this, but in a more complicated app, those sort of changes can make huge differences. So you got it. Try again. All right, let's just give that a try. So I'm going to go for the same tactic again. 10, we need to go higher. 15. Oh, there we go. Got it straight away. Let's guess 15 again. So now we've got a new random number. 8, still lower. 4, still lower. 2, still lower. So must be a 1. We got it. Fantastic. That's it. So I hope you managed to do something reasonably similar to that. Now let's get back to our Java deep dive and learn about loops.